Look outside right now. Wow.
Say, kids, what time is it?
The future is coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on.
And we're coming on to you live from Boulder Creek, California for Mrs. Future and myself and Bobby Wilder in San Francisco.
Our buddy Bobby, our researcher in person.
Yeah, ready to go over what's up this week for us. And what a weekend, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been wonderful. Easter.
Oh, before we get into that, is it sunny in San Francisco today?
You know, the clouds are breaking up as we speak here, so it looks very hopeful.
Hopeful, okay. All right.
Well, that's how our morning went. It started out really foggy.
Yeah, the marine layer has
Now it's
returned
gorgeous.
to the Bay Area. But it's light today. It's lifting, and we all get to have lots of sun. Very happy about that.
What were you saying?
Get out and get some sun. I have friends like Taylor. I think they stay in the house too much, and they run out of energy. I think it's important.
Well, vitamin
sun.
D, you get it from sunshine.
Yeah. There's a lot of your mitochondria and infrared. You got to recharge all your cells. And it doesn't have to be visible light. It can be... In the old days, people just sat by campfires or...
I love doing that too.
Really? Campfires will give you enough...
For infrared?
For your health?
And if you go to one of those Russian baths...
Yeah, like the one Gabby took us to.
Yeah, they have these intense furnace areas that create the sauna and the steam, and you can stand by these walls they're radiating infrared. It's like you're at one of these, you swear they're pouring iron or metal or something, it's so hot.
I said, how did you get so tanned? Oh, I went to a Russian spa.
Yeah.
That's my infrared tan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Funny.
But it definitely gives you energy. I remember it was so cold in Mendocino.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a central heating system. So you had to make a fire every morning. And so I'm freezing in the morning trying to light this fire.
Living like a pioneer.
Yeah. And that was our only heat, for the whole day. And then you just run that all day. And then at night, you just put in a couple extra logs and the fire would just go all night. But it would always burn out by morning.
Oh.
Nothing left but embers.
Isn't most of those stoves surrounded by iron, and they're iron stoves, and they don't...
Yeah, they radiate infrared.
They do.
Definitely
so the iron
heat.
radiates
Yeah.
infrared. Really?
Yeah. It's definitely a form of energy. Like in northern latitudes, you either have to have a sauna or you have a wood stove or something that is hot enough to radiate. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can say that I am a sun worshiper and a fire worshiper. And I wanted to just share again one of my favorite quotes from Terence McKenna when he encountered the magic mushroom entities who claimed that their sentience has been alive for eons beyond when ours was even in the making.
So what's the quote, Mrs. Future? What's the quote?
The quote is, the reason why the mushrooms are here on this planet is because they're here for sex thrills and sunbathing.
There you go. That's right. That's right. The sunbathing part is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So how was your weekend? Did you guys celebrate Easter?
Not so
particularly?
much.
No.
I was building a closet thing, one of those PAX closets from IKEA.
Yeah.
And I did give some of my rotorized starter to my neighbor and some flowers and wished a lot of my neighbors happy Easter.
Oh, that's nice.
They
That's
were
nice.
all having a good time.
We had a nice little gathering at
we had
Sunny,
a family Easter.
Sunny Buddy's family.
My
in
sisters.
San Jose. It was really wonderful.
Her
Oh,
family.
yeah.
Her
Who was
husband.
that in the picture? I didn't recognize those.
Oh,
those
well,
people.
some of those folks are her husband, Pat, her partner, I guess. Her husband is her ex, so he's her current partner, but kind of love of her life. And his family, we had his daughter, Carolyn was there, and my sister and her husband. So a bunch of us, people who grown up
Small yet
together,
sweet dinner.
love
It was
each other.
Really, really nice. 3 of the 4 McNamee sisters were there.
Yeah, it was a real slice of heaven on earth,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And swapping
cool.
stories, memories, and stuff like that.
Yeah, they always catch up with the family at these events. I guess that's really what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely.
These gatherings.
Heaven is in the moment. You got to cultivate it.
Yeah. And then I thought it was interesting that the Pope died right after he finished all his Easter festivities.
Yeah, wasn't that inspiring? We went to Easter dinner I had seen the news about the Pope and how his fragile health had made it so that he only did a tiny bit of his Easter duties and other people did the Mass, but he went out in the Pope mobile and he was blessing babies and
Against doctor's orders, I might add.
telling people whatever inspiration he was sharing with them and really having a beautiful day as he might have done in his prime. And what a way to say goodbye on Easter. Maybe he's resurrected somewhere,
Yeah. What's interesting is Saint Malachi in the 13th century, he predicted all the popes from the 13th century to present day. And he predicted that he had kind of described Pope Francis as being the last of all the popes. So we will see if
That's interesting you mentioned that because
the New Age is abuzz with the finality of
there is this cosmic New Age seer called Elizabeth April that
Who
I
we
think
love.
you track.
And she was brought up Catholic, so of course she's tuned into the Pope.
Yeah, and she had a little thing, which I'll play a minute of her just so you get an idea. She's about 30, maybe?
Well, and her website, she gives people lessons in remote viewing, and she does intuitive healing work with people and teaches them how to cultivate their own intuitive powers. And I'm a big fan. I think she's got a beautiful spirit, and she's always saying, hey, this is just how it looks to me. You consult your own intuition here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, let me give you a sample of what she sounds like here. Here we go.
The prophecy of the popes and so much more today. My biggest question is, are we at the end times? And if we are, what does that mean for all of us? So by the end of this video, you will feel informed and a lot better about everything that's going on.
It's a short
I had
video.
a different topic planned for today, but we had to scratch that completely because there's a lot going on, especially with Pope Francis, who just passed away. And it was also just Easter. There was a lot of kind of weird timing things going on.
That's her voice. She talks about how this is the end times for many. The end times, the beginning of new time. It's all about consciousness.
This is your brain.
You know.
All right, we're going to skip through that.
Yeah, no, I'm not
Go
going to
ahead.
go through that. No, you don't have to turn it down.
No,
I've
you
got it
can
here.
just say what you want us to hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want you to hear what her insights were
I'm
about
ready.
where it's actually going to end. The end times is the beginning of a new world.
Is Jesus going to come back?
Is Jesus going to come back?
Is he going
really
to resurrect? Is he going to be reincarnated? However you want to interpret that. Is he coming back? I need to know. And then I also need to know, who is he, right? And of course, we've had various cult leaders all say that they are the reincarnation of Jesus, leading up to the Twin Flames cult, that holy, we're talking my generation.
We know that.
We're still with this idea
they're
of
still
I am
beautiful
the
souls.
resurrection of Jesus. It blows my mind that people can still get away with that. So I had to ask the question, and guess what the answer was? Like I said, take everything with a grain of salt. The information or the answer that came through is that no, Jesus as a being, as an ascended master, was not going to reincarnate, was not going to come down in a flesh body anymore. That time has passed, okay? However, Christ consciousness is going to come back through all of us. That each one of us is going to find this vibrational level, at least even a fraction of the vibrational level that Jesus was at. And at a certain point, when you vibrate at such a high frequency, the traditional laws of physics just don't apply to you anymore. So yeah, instantaneous healing and walking on water and kind of making food out of nothing or alchemizing water into wine or all the things that he did. And that was him just overriding the laws of physics and being able to do some miraculous things because he was vibrating at a different frequency. So the information that came to me 10 plus years ago was that Christ consciousness is coming back. Christ is coming back, but it's coming back in each and every one of us.
There you go. They're in the message, and I think that's a message a lot of people have gotten.
Yeah.
About the part about the rules of physics not applying anymore, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, no, I think that when you start bending the rules of physics, you're kind of going into the miracle zone. But there are certainly ways to interpret the information of the holy stories, the scriptures, in ways that are very much available to us here and now. For instance, when she talks about manifesting food out of thin air, it's certainly very possible, but in our little circle of just creating potlucks over the years, we experimented with manifesting food out of thin air. And really, when you come together with a bunch of people for a potluck, food manifests out of thin air. People bring their best. Everybody shares a little something, and by the time everybody has shared their contribution, it's miraculous. It's perfect. Everybody is fed, and everybody is fed beyond just the food. They're fed by the
company
community.
with each other.
By being seen and giving their gifts and all those things that really the reason why we're here.
And
right?
really, feeding
life
20
is a
people can
blessing.
be expensive. If you're taking it on all yourself,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, it's really about realizing that it's not about the expense. It's
Yeah.
about
It's
doing
about the
what's yours to
experience,
do. Do what's yours to do, and do it with a good heart. And that's where heaven on earth comes from, is everybody has their place and everybody's perfect for who they are.
yeah. Create the world you want to live in as best as you can.
Right. Invite it in and give it a stage.
I find Elizabeth April very inspiring and giving us an opportunity to look at the brighter side of things and actually help us get our consciousness to a level where we can accept miraculous things.
Yeah. Well, we are miraculous. Existence is miraculous.
Be open to possibilities of miracles. Huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if anything, it's really important for people to realize how much they are utilizing this gift of being in the body to project their consciousness. And that projection of consciousness is, in fact, the source of all the miracles.
Yeah, I think the scientists call it the placebo effect.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Turning the volume down on the
I'm
miracle
sorry.
of
No,
existence.
no,
it's
no.
just a placebo effect. If you
No.
believe it, it's real. Other than that,
No,
you're missing it.
No, Mrs. Future. No. I think I'm elevating it. The placebo isn't just a.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You think that's an elevation, huh?
Well, I think
sounds
the way
like it
in my
sounds like a
mind, at
fake.
least, that I haven't expressed to you yet, yes, it's elevated.
Okay.
And it has to do with the idea that we do create our own reality with our thoughts. And that if you believe, like, for example, in the case of medicine, a pill is going to do you good, then it's more likely going to do you good than not.
Absolutely. Doctors have been prescribing placebos for a long time.
And so your belief is important in pharmacology.
Sure, because really the pharmacologists are trying to get you to pay them to convince you to heal yourself because you have everything you need.
I don't think they're thinking that far ahead on that. I mean,
Some of them are.
Yeah, but I do think pharmacology has its place.
Absolutely.
in the healing
Science
process.
is a blessing.
But it's
Knowledge
part
is
of
a
a
blessing.
part of a matrix of effects, including electromagnetics,
Collective wisdom is a
which you know,
blessing.
Bobby is into quite extensively.
Even shysters are a blessing. Even people who see if they can fool you, they are also a blessing because
Yeah.
they sharpen your intellect.
Well, that's right. Yeah, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. As if strength was the only thing we need for survival. We need so much more.
Yeah, yeah.
We need softness. We need humor. We need nurturing. We need appreciation. Strength has its place, but
It does. It does.
You know,
Last week we talked about the girls that went into space on Jeff Bezos' rocket ship, the Blue Origin, and we were pretty positive about that whole story. But I had no idea that it would create such a ridicule.
well,
in
it just
the
shows you
culture.
the mainstream right now is looking for blood. They have nothing nice to say about anybody. They really are here to scratch out whatever bit of joy appears to be in other people's lives. It's really an envious world.
I look at our some of our sites we usually get some great stories from, like Futurism, for example, and they call it, quote, a vacuous publicity stunt. You know, come on.
Looking at those beautiful women and appreciating their joy at having that experience is enough. Nobody was saying that the first several rounds of astronauts who went up were vacuous.
Well, you know what's interesting is that the first American astronaut, Alan Shepard, Scott Manley did a whole thing on his first trip in honor of this trip.
Right.
The girls went up on.
Because
And his
their spacecraft, the Shepard, is named after.
yeah, it's the Shepard is the same. It's the name of Alan Shepard.
Yeah,
is the name,
and
the
it's in
Shepard
his honor.
Well, what's interesting is that Alan Shepard didn't have to do anything. They gave him some things to do, but before him, Ham the chimp went up. With basically the same gear. And he didn't have to do anything. He was up and down in space. 16 minutes, I think it took. This trip was 11 minutes. And they didn't have to do anything except float around and have fun. And I don't see anything wrong with
50 years later,
that,
we're
personally.
topping monkeys with beautiful women.
Yeah.
Yeah, why should the beautiful women be criticized?
They made statements like making space for future women.
Well, they said taking up space, which is, I think, a wonderful feminist sentiment for women who
floating around in zero
not
gravity.
Just floating around. No, I think the feminists are talking about the way that women make themselves smaller to create room for the bigger egos in the room as a form of grace, as a form of being loving. And when a beautiful woman who's trying to be feminist as well as a beautiful woman says we're taking up space, they're talking about the idea that our priorities need to include ourselves, not just creating enough space for the biggest ego in the room. So people who are out to scratch somebody's eyes out because they're the ugly side of humanity and they just want somebody to pay attention to them because they're mean girls or mean boys or whatever, they have no concept of the depth of affirmation that these beautiful women are speaking to.
But what's their contribution to science?
Well, that's like saying Aphrodite and Athena. They're not competing with each other.
I know. I
they
agree
have
with you.
different roles to play.
Okay, most meaningful feminist aspect of their statement, what would that be in your estimation?
I think the meaningful aspect of all of them was that they turned it into a personally meaningful journey. And for them, they had to overcome fear. They had to embrace their own significance. They had to bring with them the things that gave their life meaning and purpose. Now they have to do it against the backdrop of this strange need to tear people down when you're jealous of their success. And this is all a very personal journey of intuition and empowerment and trying to identify the poisons of the world so that we can bring grace to them and healing.
And what do you think they meant when they said they put the ass in astronauts?
Who said that?
It's worth checking.
I think it says more about who said it because there are a lot of ass journalists.
Okay.
You know.
Well, what about the idea that the crew had 2 days of basic safety training and now they're called astronauts?
Hey, I think you should define an astronaut by their outfit. I thought they had
The outfits were
most
great. Yeah, that's
awesome
true.
outfits.
That
I
was
think
amazing.
anybody who wants to float around in space should get some of those astronaut outfits.
Yeah, I guess that was worth $1 billion.
Hey, if you got it to spend, what else are you going to do with it? Greed has got to be good for something. It's got to create a glamour world that we all can enjoy throwing our stones at it, whether it's positive or negative, you know?
Yeah.
I personally like those women. I don't look for evil intent behind them. I think that being famous is its own form of hell world. You have this bubble of other people's opinions of who you are, and it's just always there. And then people think they know you, and they don't because they've read some garbage about you. So as far as I'm concerned, these are beautiful women. I admire who they like to be. They appear to take care of themselves and each other and the people in their world, and they're living good lives. Bless them.
Yeah. If Jeff Bezos can send Katy Perry into space, he can pay a wealth tax so every American has debt-free health care.
Yeah, that's
Says
the kind
Nina
of
Turner,
poor me
educator.
attitude. Like that person is incapable of putting their own dreams ahead and taking responsibility for the consequences of their own behavior. It's really important to that entitled person to tear somebody down to get what they want. It's sad. It's really a cancer of the human spirit.
Yeah. And King said it was not just a joyride, that it was a freaking journey.
Yeah.
It was a real journey.
Well,
and
they made a lot about the fact that she's a very fearful person and that it took all of her affirmations to make it a courageous victory.
And she called the haters. She says that I'm not going to let them steal my joy.
Good for her. I believe it. I don't think we should let the haters steal our joy. I think they're trying real hard right now. And I think 5 years from now, these people who are professional haters are going to have so much people just looking at them and thinking, oh,
well, that's the troll room, right?
Yeah.
That's the troll room.
They're the trolls. But
Yeah.
I think that when transparency is out there, all of these people who are trolls are going to be held to the consequences of the world they create by being such negativists.
Okay, well, I can see that with haters, but what about lampooners?
Well, humor is your get out of jail free card.
If-
But you do
if you
have to
get
be
it,
able
right?
to
If you-
take
yeah.
a joke. One of the things that we used to think was so great about America versus Russia is that in Russia, nobody was allowed to make a joke about anybody in power. Pravda meant truth, and they didn't have comics, whereas what did we have? We had the comic news. We pretty much love to lampoon our leaders. It's done from like, hey, there are pigs to roast.
I totally agree with you. I think maintain our sense of humor will be okay, no matter what's going on.
But the problem is there's so many different flavors of humor. There's humor where it's kind of like a loving jab, and there's humor where it's like, I just want to ridicule you and make you look bad and feel bad and take some of your power away from you, which is really what's popular now. It's really power brokers trying to make each other look bad.
Yeah, and there's putting people down humor, and maybe there should be humor about building people up.
There is. If you listen to Dave Chappelle's humor is very much where he's just talking about how people are and how they want to be part of this club or that club. And he manages to skirt that line of having a very sympathetic view of people being foolishly themselves. And that kind of humor I cannot get enough of.
Gee, I wonder what the Pope's humor was. I didn't read many articles on that, but he's probably pretty funny.
Oh,
I'd imagine.
like to think
Because he's
so.
that kind of guy that was like to hang out with them.
I liked the last post in the Galactic Emissaries by Mihai, I think, that was quote of Pope Francis talking about how important it was to stay kind and be benevolent and help people and not just be greed. He was talking about solidarity and how the experience of all of us feeling unified together is what's necessary to overcome the rampant greed that's destroying the world. And I can certainly agree with that sentiment. I think it's beautiful. No, you can't play it, sweetie, because it's all in Spanish.
Oh, to rediscover the needs of the brothers and sisters orbiting around us. How wonderful it would be if solidarity, these beautiful and at times inconvenient word, solidarity, were not simply reduced to social work and become instead the default attitude in political, economic, and scientific choices,
It's beautiful, right?
as well as in relationships.
Yeah, and you think
among
of
people.
solidarity like the Lou Walencia in
Yeah.
Poland, right? Where he was able to overcome a violent revolution among the workers by getting them to unify with each other and hold the space that their rights were important. And that was perfect for the time. The solidarity movement meant that the unity of the people was able to bring about the desires of the people. But that's not the same as like in the COVID era where the unity of the people is about controlling the narrative and castigating the people who
Well-
are not part of the mainstream narrative and victimizing people through, different kinds of...
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about unity is that it often takes a foe to bring it together. Like, for example, you know how I'm hybrid, almost 50% Canadian.
Uh-huh.
Born in the U.S., ICE. I was born here. However, it's interesting that because of the tariff situation, Canadians have all banded together to not have vacations in America anymore.
Well,
in
it's
the
we've
United
broken
States.
our
And-
hearts.
and-
We who love Canada feel heartbroken, and the
Yeah.
Canadians who love America feel heartbroken. And as Elizabeth April says, Donald Trump is a destroyer. He is not here for the evolution. He's here to clear the deck so that the evolution can happen.
More of a disassembler, you might say.
Yeah. Well,
Disassembler entity.
normality changes very slowly. I think the Dalai Lama once said that 70% of the people are pretty much not open to any new ideas. They're just marching on the path that they've been given by their inheritance, by their family, by their beliefs. 30% of the people are inventing new realities or disassembling the current reality or doing something to change the status quo. And the most successful efforts of that 30% bubble up as revolution or innovation during their lifetimes. And then by the next generation, those bubbling parts of evolution have been co-opted into the 70% of the status quo again. So you can't really contain it in one generation. You have to view everything as perfect for the time that we're in.
Right. So that's what it comes down to.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's because technology is moving at a faster rate than people can actually handle. You have to have something that completely unsettles everybody so that they have to reevaluate what is happening in the future here. Trump is just there just to shake things up, and whether you like him or not, he's just accelerating this process where we can be enlightened later, you know.
Well, we're going to get a chance when we go visit Al's mom in August, like we always do, to be ambassadors of goodwill from Americans who love Canadians to Canadians who hopefully still love Americans.
I was wondering if I need to bring a raincoat just for the rotten tomatoes and eggs that come my direction.
So do you have to change your license plate before you cross the border into Canada?
We'll let our friend drive.
Well, I suppose it depends on how much of a rebel you identify with being. I mean,
we'll
some people want to, broadcast, hey, hit me.
You don't want to have an American flag on your back.
Right.
Your jacket.
Although I'm sure that there'll be a certain underground that's like making American flag fashions, you know. Or I bet there's like American flag toilet paper that's being like really popular right now.
Well, but you see, we got to get out of the particular incident of this, but it's kind of like reminds me of Ronald Reagan and aliens. Bear with me on this. It's like you need a common enemy to unite the people.
I knew you were going to go there.
And is that really necessary? Definitely
well, that's
human
how he
nature,
convinced,
right?
who was it? He convinced Mr. Gorbachev to create nuclear detente. Wasn't that the big result
Star
of that?
Wars, I mean, the whole idea was that the aliens would unite us as humanity. Maybe that's needed. Maybe we do need to have a common...
I don't know. Everybody who believes in aliens think that they're our friends and that they're superior to us and that they're actually going to save us, except Lou Alessandro, who has a lot of scientific evidence about the government's experience with aliens, thinks that they're acting like a military reconnaissance organization that just wants to see how far we're going to go. And the story that Lou Alessandro says... Imagine, if you will, that we humans are just dispassionately watching a wild colony of apes in nature, and that we happen to have a military fort in their vicinity. And one day, one of those apes gets into the fort and steals some of the weapons. And then next thing you know, some of these apes are like using those weapons to make our lives miserable. We have to neutralize the threat to our interests, and so we basically make sure that the apes don't use the guns against us. So the aliens are going to make sure we don't use our insights, our scientific breakthroughs against them. Right?
There's every story you can imagine. I mean, pick your story. With 400 quadrillion star systems, pick your story.
Yeah, well, and if the idea that consciousness is actually the currency and light is actually just one little sculpture of what is possible among life forms, that this universe that we can only define as slower than the speed of light, and everything we know, just like Carl Sagan said, is on this little blue dot, this planet in the middle of apparently nowhere, and that the consciousness is the only place we can go to explore the rest of the universe, because everything else is so far away we can't get there from here.
Yeah, consciousness is the only thing that's faster than the speed of light.
Right.
And so it behooves us to understand consciousness and microtubules, right, Bobby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's my job to show everybody in the audience that there is a connection to these other dimensions, and it's through quantum consciousness, and that eventually I'll have to show you that there's evidence that can be tangible, that can explain these other dimensions that we don't experience right now. And that science, well, most people in science don't want to admit it exists.
even
And
though it's a
so
demonstrable thing.
I think that's when this Christ consciousness comes in, is where you can believe in things in other dimensions and manifest things that are in your mind very easily. But you just have to break the confines of how we've been brought up to
what you think
believe
is real,
what our limitations are.
which is what you think is true for you.
Yeah. And I think there's a way using quantum physics to explain this. It's just going to take a few more Nobel Prizes in quantum physics.
You're probably right. It'll probably take a while. But I'm thinking that what we do have as storytellers is an opportunity to maybe look at what stories might be fun to experience or might be true based on what the clues suggest.
Yeah.
Like easy travel to other planets might be a dimensional portal, the portal idea, right? Yeah. And that consciousness is not some abstract intellectual exercise, but it's actually what you are thinking, feeling, experiencing right now. And that what you're experiencing now can be expanded to include portals and other dimensional experiences if you're so inclined.
Are you proposing this as a possibility, or are you trying to share with us your own personal journey?
Well, I think more and more people are realizing this, that there are more and more people that are realizing what they think is important and that what you believe to be true can affect your experiences. And then there are people that also are paying attention to things that normally you wouldn't. Like, for example, one of our articles this week is about some scientists that were generating electricity from the Earth's rotation.
Could we take a little quick break for our sponsors
Just from
and then
looking
come
at the
back?
rotation? Yeah, sure. We'll take a little break.
All right. So
then
that's
we'll show you
tantalizing treat coming up.
It's a Tesla kind of concept. It's not something...
Speaking of the way where consciousness meets science, huh?
Right, and not something you'd learn in school typically.
All right.
We'll get into that
folks.
right
we'll
after.
We'll be right back.
Our little break.
That won't happen at Low Cost Air. When you dial 800-704-1662, a real person answers and helps you find the best airfares foreign and domestic. Your choice.
Please continue to hold.
Or a real person. Low Cost Air, 800-704-1662. Low Cost Air, 800-704-1662.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants. Hello, I'm Jenna. Treehouse Dispensary, we use information about cannabis to build community. Listen to Carly.
Thanks, Jenna. For those who wake up in the middle of the night, Treehouse suggests a THC-CBN chocolate edible blend like Sleepy Time from Sensi Chew. Sleep the night away.
For answers to your cannabis questions, ask your friends at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 Soquel Drive in Soquel, or ourtreehouse.io.
It's time now to repair or replace your roof. Hi, folks. Warren Knox here of Knox Roofing. Well, we install leak-proof and fireproof roofs. Roofs that look nice with a lot of choices of colors and styles. We only install proven products with warranties unmatched by anybody. Financing is always available, and we have discounts for veterans and seniors. Do business with Knox Roofing, and you'll also receive a free Knox Garden Box. The number to call again is 831-461-0634. Thanks, folks.
It's time to get down to business, and here is how. Hello, I'm Alex Peterson from the Santa Cruz Small Business Development Center with an invitation for you to attend our annual Small Business Summit, May 9th at Cabrillo College. During this day-long event with more than 15 breakout sessions, you'll get to meet, greet, and learn from the leaders of our business community and community leaders like Mayor Fred Keeley. Register today at SantaCruzSmallBusinessSummit.com. SantaCruzSmallBusinessSummit.com.
We's back?
Yes, sir. We are back.
All right. Yeah, I was going to get into this new device that's designed to generate electricity from the Earth's rotation.
Cool.
A group of physicists, Princeton University, have shown that passive electricity might be more than just theory. It's an interesting idea. It reminds me of Tesla because Tesla would think of the Earth as a whole. You would think of it as a giant rotating sphere and had a metal core, and that the rotation would generate an electric field that perhaps we might be able to tap because we are moving and it is real energy. A conductor moving through a magnetic field, it should generate a current, right? Since the 1800s, there have been scientists that have been trying and failing to make this happen just using the Earth's rotation. And then in 2016, physicist Christopher Chiba and his team outlined conditions under which it just might work. And that's when the idea was conceptualized. And now they have a prototype. 9 years later, they built a device to put their theory to a test.
New option for clean energy.
It allows them to synthesize passively generated electricity. It could be a whole new type of energy. Very clean. Yeah, very clean.
Sort of like when we used Niagara Falls to discover electricity back 100 years ago. Now we're actually just going straight to the magnetic fields generated by the
Earth
rotating
itself.
Earth.
Yeah, I mean, falling water is great.
Sounds like Tesla.
But rotating magnetic fields of the planet are big. So their prototype was a cylindrical shell made of manganese zinc ferrite. And they created it so that it rotated in alignment with the Earth's magnetic field.
Where'd they put it?
Well, they have two locations, one in the lab and one there in the field to show that it could work elsewhere on the planet.
Okay,
And
so
they
it
were
just
able to-
basically has to point in the direction of the Earth's
It has to be aligned
orbit.
properly. And because of its shape and properties, the electrons inside the shell can't cancel out the electric force created by the rotation.
Okay, all right.
So the rotation forces
So-
are still there. They got a consistent voltage, but it was very tiny. It was a range of about 17 microvolts and measurable current.
Hey, here we are back to quantum technology, right? Imagine if we could get an array of technology where we were using those little microvolts to collect energy at a battery that was, say, the size of the carbon fiber nanotubules or something
Tiny little
like
batteries.
that.
Yes, well, you get into quantum. Well, this isn't even quantum. This is just pure classical electrical understanding of Newtonian gravity stuff. But in just using that, they were able to generate power that showed that passive electricity does exist. No fuel, no movement other than the Earth itself moving.
We can steal it from the rotating planet, no consequences.
No external power source.
Just like solar power, though, it's so minuscule that we just can't get enough of it.
Well, initially solar power was like that.
Solar
Initially,
power is still
panels.
like that.
Solar
Our greed
panels.
is the problem. Most of the life on Earth has no problem with the amount of solar power that is being rained upon the
No,
planet.
I agree. But if you want to
The only
create,
people who have a problem with not having enough power from the sun
Is us.
are those who want to go faster than plants.
well, yeah, us. Us.
Yeah. You know, Sabine Hossenfelder, she's a YouTube, she's a physicist from Germany.
Yeah.
And she looked at this in 2016 and she thought it was a hoax. And then later she looked at it again and she says, yeah, this is possible. And she's just saying the next step is just to scale it up to
Exactly,
where
yeah.
it can actually produce something.
Can it be
because-
scaled up properly?
Yeah.
But I think scaling it up, when you're talking about electromagnetism, is scaling it down to the level of a battery. Like, how do we get it so that that little teeny tiny microvolt can be stored and sent around to a current that powers something? You
Yeah.
want it to go minuscule.
Well, batteries can take a minuscule charge. It just take a long time to charge them. That's fine. You should just set them up so that they're long-term storage chargers. I mean, it's free energy. You probably could have them anywhere on the planet, thousands of them. Kind of like, what do we have? A lot of batteries in each cell. What do we have? Mitochondria, like 100 mitochondria in every cell. So,
Well, if you start making an analogy
so
between
small, they'd be household tools. Maybe even small batteries that everybody has in their homes could add to the equation.
I don't know if you remember on Coast to Coast when Art Bell, he was into ham radios and
Sure.
he was stringing this wire around his property. And then when he got to the other end and he was touching the wire, he got a huge jolt, you know. It's because these radio stations, when you think of a radio station and they say, oh, we're putting out 20,000 kilowatts is our tower is putting out that much.
Yeah.
So they're putting a lot of electricity
Yeah.
and voltage and wattage into the air.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is string a wire around and you can actually get some of that in your home, you know.
Sure. Yeah. I
What
totally
was
see
that YouTube
Yeah.
we were looking at the other day where somebody was holding up like a banana to an electrical tower and you could listen to the radio? What was that? Did you see
No,
that?
that was-
you know
that
what I'm
No, I
talking
didn't
about?
see that one.
They were showing how much power is in a radio transmitter. That's
It's amazing.
You could play with a banana and actually pick up the conversation on the radio.
Yeah, and they were like they had these insulated tongs, and they were holding the banana
They're putting the
at
RF
the end of
directly
these
to the
tongs,
banana, and
going up to one of these power towers that conducts electricity.
touching the other end to the tower.
Or maybe was it a radio tower? Or
it was a radio tower.
It was a radio tower, and you watch this banana is like fizzling away.
It's a bad
burning
conductor, very bad conductor.
And you can hear the radio signal through
as
the
it
banana.
Fizzles, as it fizzles, you hear the radio signal coming through. It's really instructive in understanding how radio works. But yes, you're right. There was a lot of power in the air just floating around thanks to all of our electronic systems.
And really what it
like
takes
radio.
is something magnetic to get that free-floating power concentrated enough into a coherent form that you can recognize it. You can hear it.
Right, storage mechanism.
Yeah.
Now, the breakthrough here is that it's not any of that ambient energy that we've created as a species. It's actually energy the Earth is creating just by rotating.
Well, but the Earth created us.
So if you had like a time machine, you could use it throughout time. You would always have a power source if it came from Earth rotation.
Oh, maybe that's why the aliens are here.
Well, there's a lot of rotating planets out there. I think it would be a pretty common knowledge.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to use the rotation to generate electricity, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Among other things. Making it usable electricity is a major challenge, but the potential is there. Mm-hmm. And that's why you listen to our show, because we show you the cutting edge of what is
that's right.
not quite real yet.
Blue sky scientists saying, what if?
This could be a maintenance-free power source.
That's right.
Anywhere on the planet. Long-life sensors could exist, so you could be monitoring remote locations.
Just hold up your little umbrella, collect some of that free energy.
Well, you're getting it from sun anyway, so it's just a step forward to getting it from the electromagnetic rotation.
Sure. Yeah, because the Earth is rotating because of the sun, right? If I was a planet and I wanted to stay warm and I was facing this star, I would get into rotation because only one side is warm at a time and the other side is freezing.
Yeah.
And so if I'm a conscious planet and I want all of me to be warm, I have to do a little dance. I have to turn around so that I'm constantly warming the cool side.
Yeah, that happens on Mercury right now.
Oh, yeah?
It only faces the sun on one side.
Oh, man.
And the other side is very cold, believe it or not.
And it looks
and
like
it's so
a burnt-out ember, man.
Yeah, on the sun side.
Well, that's interesting, Bob, because you think about that, hot on one side, cold on another. Don't thermistors work that way for generating electricity? Well, you have a hot and cold combination of hot and cold.
That's right. You could actually generate energy that way, electricity,
So even though they don't rotate, they still can have power on Mercury. It's just be generating through a thermistor concept rather than a gravitational field rotation.
Thermistor, so somehow electricity goes from cold to hot?
Yeah, hot, cold. Really
hot to cold?
Extreme hot, cold differences. The more extreme, the more power you get.
Oh, okay.
Like if we could stick something in the middle of the sun that didn't melt, that would create a lot of power.
Well, I don't think we know the temperature at the middle of the sun yet. We're still trying to figure that one out.
I mean, hundreds of millions of degrees, I think.
The corona is actually hotter than the center of the sun.
Yeah, right.
Is it? Well, you couldn't even get to the center, right?
Some people think the center might be a black hole, or it might be a bunch of black holes. It might be a whole bunch of hydrogen atoms being formed out of nothing.
Yeah. Well, there was the Dyson sphere idea. The Dyson sphere, you're familiar with that? That was an early sci-fi idea. Dyson, as a scientist, actually thought it up, that you could create a wall around the sun, and the wall would collect a lot of energy and use it for powering civilizations.
Oh,
Yeah, if you have a constant, close power source around the sun, like a giant ring, then you'd be able to generate a lot of power, and it would be free.
Right.
Radiation heat.
Somehow the surface of the planet is too small to generate enough electricity. We have to have all of the power of the sun collected on this giant wall to just get enough.
I sense your displeasure with this idea.
I just think that these sci-fi scientists didn't do the math. That's all I'm hitting you with.
So what's the vision then? That power's everywhere?
Yes.
And we live in a sea of energy.
I think that if you start recognizing that the basic building block of matter and the basic building block of electricity are just about the same thing, the hydrogen atom and the photon at the core of light becoming energy are basically just about the same size and just about the same content. They're both quantum particle waves. And if you start understanding that our science artificially separates them as if they're two different realms.
So you combine them and you see how they interact with each other, and then interaction
and so
is
then
energy.
If you start recognizing that hydrogen is the same as fundamentally sugar, and if you start realizing that plants are soaking up sunshine, and through their creation of chlorophyll, they're basically turning sunshine into sugar, and you start realizing, oh, solar power, let's see. It's happening everywhere.
In a myriad of forms all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And our problem is that we're like these cavemen with hammers, and we have a hammer, so we just start looking for what can we hit with
What else?
it,
There's a lot of stuff and that hammers work with. That's true.
Right.
What blew me away about trees is that, and the sun, how each leaf tracks the sun individually. Mm-hmm. It's like they're all like little antennae adjusting for the maximum sun.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to see that when we first moved here, we were off the grid. We're still off the grid. But there was a system designed by some hippie company in Santa Fe, I think it was, that created a solar tracker where your solar panels would track the sun simply by the expansion of gas as it heated up by the sun.
Right.
So the whole
so
panel
it's
would track
cold
it.
in the morning,
Yeah,
and so the solar panel, when it's cold, is facing the sunrise.
Right.
And then as the sun heats the gas during the day and the pressure goes up,
It's sluggish, but it doesn't have to be fast to track the sun.
it causes the panels to be rotated.
Slowly rotating.
And rotating towards the sunset side.
Yeah.
And then once it gets cold again, they go back to the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just combining gas, understanding gas, and how it affects the motion of metal.
Mechanical motion, right?
Yeah, it's just the intersection of those two worlds, which classically in academics, if things have been separated out, so you study very specific things and you don't necessarily see the connections between things.
Yeah. Well, you separate to recombine, and then you get new insights.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's the alchemist's dream. I separate in order to combine.
Mm-hmm. Right. I love that we're at a new resolution of reality with all of our enhancements, all of our lenses, all of our tools, all of our amplifiers, all of our new ways of looking at the relationships between mass and energy and frequency and light and all that. So
I like this is that we're getting microvolts, 17 microvolts, but hey, it's consistent, it's forever, as long as the Earth rotates, which is a long time. It's that kind of thinking that will change the world. One invention at a time.
All right, let's go. We'll be back. See ya in the future.
Yes.
Now.
And a terraform idea for you.
What a fun show, huh?
Yeah. It's so easy to talk these weeks because there's so much going on every week. Too much to talk about.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before we're on more frequently.
Tune in and transmit.
Depends on our cues we get from universe to be on more, we will. Welcome back, everyone, to our final hour today. Happy Earth Day.
That sounds so final.
Final. Our last hour.
Our final of the day.
Where we fade away. Other things take over.
Well, if everything is ending,
yes,
then of course everything is beginning.
What a concept.
Yeah, it's a new beginning.
Yeah.
Got that from Elizabeth April. But
I knew it.
Where
Where do you
anyway.
think she got it from?
Paying attention.
Cycles.
Anyway, happy Earth Day.
Yes.
All
Supposedly
right.
it started in 1970, and it was a response to the whole environmental destruction that we begin to see. It was a grassroots movement. It has grown into a global thing. It reminds us that we all have a role in shaping this planet. And it's a day to celebrate nature. Get outside today and enjoy nature's beauty and resilience. Acknowledge the challenges we face and commit to the restoration and regeneration of the planet. You'll be in resonance with the Earth Day
Count me in.
grassroots movement.
I was sitting on our porch yesterday trying to make friends with the hummingbirds. I just was sitting out there reading. We have quite a tribe of hummingbirds because Wayne is really diligent about keeping the hummingbird feeders full, and there's about 4 of them. So we always have got this complete soap opera of hummingbirds coming through, and some of them are sweet little peaceful ones who share the feeder with each other, and some of them are kind of big bullies and they chasing some little wimp away and everything in between. Sometimes somebody's like very tentative, like they're not sure if they're welcome or not, so they kind of like pause for a minute before they get their beak wet and then come back and look, make sure nobody minds, and eventually they settle in until their skittishness is tested by some other hummingbird. And as I was sitting there,
sitting there
reading yesterday,
watching the birds.
Yeah, and I decided to just close my eyes because I'm a little bit afraid when they get close to me. And I could literally feel hummingbirds like the wind of their wings right in front of me.
They're checking you out, huh, when your eyes were closed?
They were checking me out when my eyes were closed, yeah. And I had to keep my eyes closed because otherwise I would be flinching.
Yeah, I think.
So.
Better not peck me, man.
It's a real concern. I don't think that they would. I think they're more afraid of me than I am of them.
Oh, yeah.
But fear is fear. It makes you do things that you can't control. Your instincts take over.
Well, we'll have to take a look. We'll have to get a camera on you, see if we can catch the hummers checking you out.
Well, I imagined, what if I had a pair of glasses that had like a place for them to land, right? I was thinking that would be kind of cute.
Hummer glasses, sure.
Right.
Yeah, get close with your hummers.
Yeah.
I saw those 2 pictures, son, or was it you, Al, that took of the hummingbird feeder, and there's a green one, and then there's one with a little red. They're close up. How did
he
get
took
those?
Shots? He took those with his new telescope.
Oh, Dwarf 3. Dwarf 3.
How does a telescope take a picture like that?
Well, it's a smart telescope, Bobby.
He had to film the furthest of the hummingbird feeders from the telescope.
It's designed for longer distance, but it has a terrestrial mode where you can use the cameras on board the telescope to track wildlife. You can mark it, much like I do with my drone, where I mark a target and it will stay on that target. So if an animal is running around, if you have your dog in the yard, it'll track the dog where it goes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you just have a live feed.
These are close-ups of these hummingbirds. It's like amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's
like
super
National Geographic picture.
Yeah, I'm impressed with the Dwarf 3 terrestrial mode. There's many other modes I'm looking forward to trying on this machine. Thanks for the feedback on that. My next one is the UFO mode. There is. There's really a UFO mode.
Do they have a UFO mode?
They do, yeah. That's on the Dwarf 3. Check it out. You'll find it. Dwarf 3 Smart Telescope has a UFO mode. What that means is that it has motion detection for the sky. So any motion that happens in the sky, you have the capacity to have the camera track, right? So it's like it can zoom in. If it's a telescope, it can zoom in pretty good.
Wow.
If you want to look for satellites, if you want to look for iridium light shows, or you want to see the International Space Station, or you want to track anything that's moving, Starlink's being deployed, fascinating to see that. All these things are stellar events that the machine knows what's going on above your house, automatically tracks the sky. You don't have to figure out where all the planets and the stars are. It just knows. And it will keep a tally on what's worth looking at tonight. That's the promise of it, and that's what I'm beginning to explore.
So does it go out on the internet and figure out where, let's say, the space station is? And,
it has a living
we'll
map
start pointing at it before it comes up on the horizon and capture it across the horizon?
I do believe that. I haven't done that yet, but that's one of the things I'm going to be trying out.
Wow.
Yeah, if you have a good view of the sky. You know, what's interesting, too, is that it was designed in Tokyo, in the city. The inventor lived in an apartment with a balcony, and he did the design and tests out on the balcony. And what's interesting there is that Tokyo is one of the most light-polluted cities on the planet. And he had a terrible view of the sky. So he figured out the algorithms to cancel out the atmospheric light pollution so that you had a clear sky.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that combined with stellar tracking and then what they call photo stacking. Photo stacking, tracking and stacking. Photo stacking, where you can
Makes
stack.
your astronomical photos the best that they can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the astronomers are doing with their telescopes is they stack the pictures.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
And you can cancel out the noise that the camera is making because it has a natural, when you turn up the sensitivity, there's a lot of noise or white dots all over your pictures, right? But
Yeah.
if you stack the photos, you can cancel out the noise and you get a clear picture.
Yes, and you can get Orion's nebula clearly. It looks like you're getting National Geographic pictures from your backyard telescope.
It's just such a huge breakthrough. It was a Kickstarter, and it basically used a local AI to do what only very expensive professional institutional telescopes were able to do. Take lots of very precise pictures of the sky and track it in such a way that you could put them back together and keep the best of and get the colors to be the brightest they can be. The visual spectrum, the actual visual spectrum.
Wow.
So, yeah. It's amazing.
So we'll be doing a full report on that soon. As
Brian
explore.
Keating is one of my physicists that I love to track. He's the author of the book, How to Lose a Nobel Prize. He was very engaged in trying to track tachyon. He was trying to track evidence related to the edge of the universe and the polarities of the light received from the edge of the universe. He has a wonderful physics blog. He's a physics teacher, and he gives students telescopes because that is his story. He, as a young man, got so interested in space because of having a telescope. So it's kind of his signature. And he did a whole blog on how he's buying up these telescopes, but it's kind of the end of their era because they're
No
being
one's- yeah, they'll be replaced by this type of
these
technology.
$500 AI-enhanced telescope
Yeah, did I
cameras.
say that? They'd say it costs $500?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say that?
No,
Oh,
I
you mean
didn't.
your Dwarf 3?
Dwarf 3, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
only
think it was
cheaper than
$500.
most telescopes that are.
Wow,
that
that's
are,
amazing.
all worth.
That is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's
You know,
worth it.
Yeah, I have friends that they kind of collect telescopes, and yeah, a lot of them are in the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 range. And then I've known people that have even more expensive ones than that in their backyard.
Yeah. There are people that have a lot of patience. I have waited in line 5-10 minutes just to look at Jupiter, you know,
Right.
as they adjust it properly and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And now you get it beamed to your television set.
Well, you just tell the telescope what you want to see, and you make sure that there's 2 or 3 stars that it recognizes so it knows where it's pointing into the sky.
Yeah.
And then
Figures
you
it
just
out.
say, okay, show me this constellation. Okay, track that.
And you know what the huge bonus is? The huge bonus?
What?
It has a sun filter.
So you can look at the sun too.
Yeah.
Oh, you
yeah.
can see
so that's another
sunspots
mode.
there.
So you have the sun mode as well. So if you want to look at sunspots, if you want to be a witness to the next big Carrington event, you can before your
Oh,
machine fries.
It has a moon
Yeah.
filter
Yeah.
too, right? We should look for debris on the moon. We should see what we
Look
can
for debris
see
on
on
the
the
moon?
bright
Yeah, let's
side of the
go.
moon.
Scan it. And you can join group experiments or group citizen scientist stuff where you combine the power of your dwarfs together to create the dwarf that will see all and have the collective experiments that are possible as a result of this type of technology.
That's what they do with radio telescopes. You
Organize them
have-
together, yeah.
You put them in a certain different types of arrays and positions, and then you actually calculate the time delay between them. And then you can create a giant lens, not the size of the individual one, but the distance between them, and it
Yeah.
becomes bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, and it allows you to be part of bigger experiments.
Yeah.
Do you remember the original SETI experiment on the internet back 25 years ago, where you could join in and help process information about potential stars that might be?
Yeah, I joined that. Within the first month, it was out of UC Berkeley,
Yeah.
SETI at home.
SETI at home, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. And back then, we didn't have GPUs. We just had Pentium 4s back then.
Right.
What you do is you set up your screensaver, and in the idle time that your computer wasn't working, it could actually process data that they were getting from, this was coming from Arecibo and different places where they would actually point the radio telescope at a certain point in the sky and then look at the hydrogen spectrum, and then you do this Fourier waveform analysis on it, and then you could detect, is there any signal that's outside of the noise of the hydrogen spectrum that shouldn't be there? And then you could detect things. And I ran that thing. I ran it
I
for
thought you might.
20 years.
Oh, no,
I
you
think
did,
it was
yeah. Wow.
just
Wow.
before COVID.
Wow.
And about 6
I didn't
years
realize
into
that.
it, I saw this anomaly where the transfer waveform said this was an unusual signal.
Wow. 20 years.
I sent it to Berkeley. I didn't get anything back, but it showed the transfer waveform, and it showed this spike anomaly that shouldn't have been there. So
Wow.
I don't know.
Wow. Do you remember what the planet that was or anything?
I have it recorded somewhere.
Oh,
I'll
good.
have to
Yeah.
see what star it was actually pointed at.
Because that's one of the fun things you can do now. If
Yeah.
you have these telescopes, for example, this week, major astronomers are all excited about the latest thing that they found about strange planets. And they found a strange planet that was found orbiting two stars at once sideways.
Sideways?
It's the coolest.
Yeah, it's known as a polar planet because it orbits above and below the poles of the star.
There are some absolutely beautiful artistic illustrations of the orbits of these two stars around each other, and then this planet doing a polar orbit of these two stars. So these two stars are forming a lemniscape, like a figure eight, with each other in their orbit. And then the planet is 90 degrees and it's kind of going above and below, and it's within the orbits of these two planets. So it's like the orbit of the planet sort of drops into the center of the orbit of one planet and then through the center of the orbit of the other planet. So it's sort of like flying into this ring.
Wow.
I mean, the closest
really
you might
fun.
had in movie history would be the Tatooine type world in Star Wars, where two suns can be seen in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is that the planet is in the polar orbit rather than around the equator. It creates a very unusual orbiting system, and it's very close to the suns as well, compared to us, like the distance of Mercury to a sun, brown dwarfs that they're around. This kind of stuff is very weird and very interesting to look at, and you can start to look at that yourself now with this tech. So it's not just the big astronomers have all the fun anymore, but you too can discover weirdness in the universe and share it with your friends or find it with your friends, which is the kind of cool part about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of these new comets and different asteroids that are being discovered. More than half of them are discovered by amateur astronomers in their backyard.
Exactly. And then just keep on getting better.
Yeah.
If I were in New Jersey last summer, I'd be looking for those UFOs, those drones.
Yes.
I think that's
With
a
your
drone.
Dwarf 3, yes.
Yeah, I have my Dwarf
set
3
that up.
network, the Jersey network, tuned in and see what we could find for sure. This isn't the only smart telescope. There's about 3 of them out there now, and their future is bright for that. And it reflects where astronomy was going anyway, with smaller dishes where you can integrate smaller dishes together to create the same effect as a large dish. So networked properly over thousands of people, over at high bandwidth networks, we'll have a pretty amazing decentralized astronomical network available to us. Be really a lot of fun.
Yeah. Keep looking up.
The James Webb had detected a possible biosignature of a planet called K2-18b.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The chemical fingerprints of dimethyl sulfide, DMS, and dimethyl disulfide, DMDS, found in a super-Earth exoplanet, K2-18b. Now, what's exciting about that is that DMS and DMDS, on Earth at least, are only produced by biology, primarily microbial life and marine phytoplankton.
Phytoplankton, exhale. This little tiny microbe that we recognize as a biosignature. And it's in our database of biosignatures. And then our astronomers get this little beam of light from this planet that's 111 light years away. And they say, hey, this little microbe's biosignature breath is the same as this light signature's chemical composition from this exoplanet. Could be life on some faraway planet that's just like this little microbe.
This world is called the Hycean world, Hycean.
It means an ocean world.
Habitable ocean-covered exoplanet.
It's a hydrogen ocean and a hydrogen atmosphere.
Really rich hydrogen in the atmosphere. There also seems to be this DMS signature. Now, what's interesting is that the DMS there is way more than it is here on Earth. That's the crazy part, way more. Here, the concentration of these DMS and DMDS is 1 part per billion. But on this planet, it's thousands of times more than that. It's over 10 parts per million in the atmosphere. Like 10 parts per million, as opposed to 1 in a billion on Earth.
So there's a lot more of those microbes up there.
So this type of chemical, which we only know to be created by biology, exists in a much thousands of times more stronger than here, which is kind of exciting. Like, what does that mean? What's producing? The next step is the scientists have to figure out, well, how else can you create these molecules without biology? How can they be done by non-life processes?
Like AIs?
Abiosis. AIs might be able to help figure it out.
I mean, didn't they just last year give a Nobel Prize to a fellow who discovered how to make proteins with AIs?
Well, they're speeding it up.
Right.
Yeah. AlphaFold 3 he was using. Yeah.
Yeah, guy won an Academy Award.
Well, we just saw him interviewed on
Prize,
60 Minutes, right?
Yeah,
he's one of the Google DeepMind, or no?
That's right.
Is it?
Yes.
Same guy. Okay, good.
Yes.
I'm not getting my stories mixed up.
Don't do that.
Well, I don't mind going through life as a pseudoscientist, not a real one. Because I like to blur the edges.
You like the concept, not the details sometimes.
That's true. I'm a comprehensive generalist and a poet at heart. I definitely like to throw things against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. So a good scientist, of course, is skeptical of their own results, as these guys are. And they said, okay, guys, show to me that I'm no fool, that you can make these molecules without life. That's the challenge now. That's the gauntlet that's been dropped. They'll probably do a lot of simulations initially. That'd be good use for the AI, just to simulate this planet and its evolution. What kind of life could actually exist there?
Tiny.
There was an event that was out of Cabrillo College originally back in the 80s. It was called Contact. You describe an alien planet and then you figure out what kind of life actually might live there. And you go through the whole details of gases and chemistry and gravity and you'd work on it all weekend, and then you'd create little models of the aliens that you think could survive there. Like if it was a Jupiter planet, you might have these gas bag organisms that breathe the atmosphere. You would come up with very short-legged creatures that would live on Mars or mole creatures that would live underground. You name it. It was a lot of fun. What was great about it was that it attracted both scientists and science fiction writers and artists and people of all kinds, because the whole idea of what alien life would look like inspires all of us. Jim Finaro was the main anthropologist behind that experiment.
Yeah.
It continued for at least 20, 25 years. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Contact. I think Bruce Damer is part of that today. Dr. Damer, one of our local scientists.
Well, and he threw many of the Contact consortiums in the early days. Right?
That's right, yeah.
That was one of the things that was people getting together to plan first contact. Like, how do we make sure that we don't commit faux pas when we're meeting alien civilizations for the first time and we don't hold out our hand and they think that means that we want to eat them or something?
You know what I would do? If it's a Haitian world, right? That means water. We have a lot of water here, right? We have a lot of water creatures, right? And what would you say the smartest aquatic creature is in the oceans?
What would I say?
Yeah, what would you say?
Let's see, a millenial. That's a word from Bonnie DeBarco.
What does that mean?
That's a little tiny algae that is known for its algae blooms, and it's basically helps to shade the ocean when it's too hot.
That's a life form for sure.
Right.
But what about higher life forms in the ocean? What
I thought
comes
you were
to
looking
mind?
for tiny ones.
No. I'm looking for our most advanced intelligence in the Earth's oceans. What would you say?
Whales.
Okay, whales. That's a good guess, Bobby. What would you think the smartest animals in the ocean are? Cetaceans?
Octopus.
Oh, very good. Very good. Yes.
Very intelligent.
That's
What about
right.
people? They don't count.
No, of course not.
Just
They're
'cause they're
land
on
creatures.
boats.
No.
They're not on.
Let's stick with the octopi.
Okay,
All
octopi.
right. The octopi, the cetaceans. If I were going to try to create a message for a water planet, what would I want to send to them? Like maybe pictures of aquatic creatures here that they could relate to? Maybe? Or
yeah,
maybe,
you're kind of like
Yeah.
when they designed that gold disc that they put on Voyager. They made a little picture of human
Charles Sagan was
beings, a
involved with
man
that.
and a woman.
Yeah,
It's like,
examples.
that's what we look like on our planet.
Yeah, I mean, why should we be so egocentric?
Do you
as to
think we
send
should have sent an octopus?
just pictures
Picture
of
of an
ourselves?
octopus?
No, I think it was fine. It would make sense that we'd send out a signal that had us on it because we don't know where it's going. Voyager is just going out into space, nowhere in particular. In this case, we're trying to send a particular message to a water planet. So what kind of message do we want to send to any potential aliens?
All right, so
on a
your vote is
water
for
planet?
an octopus.
Yeah, I think we should go into their resonance with them and see if that. And maybe they're already in touch with them. Maybe they have.
Ponder this during a break. It's that time.
Greg says the most intelligent creatures are krill. I don't know about that. I mean, the krill, aren't they an alien from Forbidden Planet?
Is that krill the same as shrimp?
Krill, yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Maybe a group
You
intelligence.
think they're smarter than
Maybe a group
octopi?
intelligence.
I
You
don't
think
know.
they're smarter than octopi? I don't know,
I'd be
man.
very
Yeah, it's
surprised.
true. What makes you think krill are so smart, Greg?
Yeah.
There are some smart krills.
How do we know that they're smart?
Lobsters, I
Did
guess.
somebody
Lobsters.
come up with an IQ test for krill?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've.
All right. Well, we'll Google that during the break. We got to
Okay.
go do a little bit of local
All right,
promo.
I'm going to ask Rock about that.
All right. We'll be right back. Happy future now.
Looking for quality video gear at budget-friendly prices? Stop by Community TV's gently used video equipment sale, Saturday, May 3rd at 10 a.m., 325 Soquel Avenue in Santa Cruz. You'll find a wide range of gear including cameras, microphones, lighting kits, tripods, accessories, and more. Perfect for anyone looking to upgrade their setup without breaking the bank. All proceeds help support our community programs. We'll see you there.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast Fence, Cypress Coast Fence.
I'm Kevin Donovan, the owner of Cypress Coast Fence, Monterey Bay Area's premier fence company.
And I'm Katie Donovan, Kevin's sister. I'm one of the project coordinators. I'll help you choose the best fence for your needs, and I'll be with you for every step of the project.
We work with local suppliers and employ quality craftsmen to build the right fence to secure, protect, or privatize your property. We've been in business for 15 years and have been voted best fence company for 7 years running.
Give us a call for your no obligation consultation at 831-783-1500 or at cypresscoastfence.com.
We don't just build fences, we make good neighbors.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast Fence, Cypress Coast Fence.
Get hooked up with affordable cannabis at the locally owned Hook Outlet. The Hook is a friendly neighborhood outlet where everybody above the age of 21 can have access to the best cannabis products for the best prices in the county. Get friendly local service and great prices in person and online at the Hook Outlets in Capitola and Watsonville. Order online at hookoutlet.com and pick up 9 to 9, 7 days a week. Get hooked up at the locally owned Hook Outlet.
Okay, welcome back to the show.
Hey,
Number two.
I got a really cute text from Master Now. He
338-722.
says, remind Mrs. Future not to use mirror sunglasses in her hummingbird experiment. Sounds like he might have found out the hard way.
I think so.
Some of those hummingbirds might think they were looking at their arch rival.
I wonder about those hummers.
They might attack the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Thinking that they see themselves.
It's pretty good advice. Thanks,
Do they
Michael.
do you think hummers pay attention to mirrors at all?
I would think that there's only a few animals on the planet
that do, right?
That can recognize themselves in the mirror. They usually recognize them as a competitor.
And that's likely to
most
happen
animals,
with hummers then. They might see it
when
as,
they see a mirror.
especially the alpha males chasing the other hummers away from the feeder.
Yeah, very territorial.
Those might be up for mirror effects. Interesting. Well, according to Greg, good. Okay, I'm glad you corrected yourself. It's not the krill in the ocean. No, he meant the krell, the monsters from the id in Forbidden Planet, which is what I thought.
I thought that's...
Yeah.
Okay. He wasn't talking about shrimp. He was
krill,
talking about sci-fi monsters of our own design.
They're real. For those of you who take science fiction sincerely, they're cool stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you.
During the break, I asked Croc, what are the most intelligent creatures of the sea, and would they enjoy connecting with aliens from a Hycean exoplanet, being a water planet? And so Croc immediately said, number one is octopuses, problem-solving skills. So they use coconut shells as shelters. They can change color, camouflage, or communicate. They have a distributed nervous system with a lot of cognition that we're still studying. So they're number one. Dolphins are number three, believe it or not. Whales, number four. Sea lions, number five. Number two is cephalopod squids.
Oh, wow.
Humboldt squid, for example.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And would they enjoy connecting with aliens? You know what the AI said about that?
What?
They said octopi and dolphins, with their problem-solving and communication skills, might like to communicate with alien signals or behaviors if they perceive them as puzzles or social cues. Octopuses might investigate alien tech out of curiosity. Interesting, they would just have curious for tech that would even make sense to them if it was a fellow octopi, an alien octopi. While dolphins could interpret alien sounds as a form of play or communication. That brings up a big point, is that play is a high form of communication, and that fun might be, even though it's interpreted differently by different species, maybe there's a universal idea of fun as a fundamental force in the universe. You know, fun is something that they would recognize.
Especially dolphins. We know they recognize fun for sure. And I've actually seen whales recognize fun. Remember our friend Matisha? He published some videos of swimming with whales, and this whale sort of appeared to like splash him with a big tidal wave, right? Like flip him over while they were playing together. So who says they don't have a sense of humor?
Oh, they have a massive, exactly.
A massive sense of humor,
but
right?
Can we connect with it? Can we ever do a stand-up for dolphins?
Well,
will we ever be any good at it?
You know, comedy is hard, right?
Fun is easier than comedy. Yeah, it's okay.
You have to have a command of the language first.
Yeah. Right.
Let's hear your best flipper, right? Al. No. Like tell a joke in dolphin.
Well, according to Grok, if the aliens communicate by bioluminescence or sound or chemical signals, then cephalopods and dolphins might like that.
Oh, so light shows.
Light shows
Where it's at,
and sound. Light shows and sound.
They like
which is what
colors.
we do, right? So, so yeah, that's the signal, right?
Okay.
That's
we just need a waterproof projector. And we might need an underwater screen. I suppose we could just project on the ground like we did at Burning Man.
Maybe in the sky. Maybe a collective Dwarf 5, down the line, would have lasers on board where it could send out a signal simultaneously from other dwarfers to coalesce and connect in the sky to create some collective image. Something like that.
I'm not sure I get what you're saying.
Well, imagine if like 1,000 beams all hit the moon at the same time. They would create a bright spot.
So kind of a hologram.
Yeah, we'd be able to create some kind of collective 3D hologram. Project Bluebeam, familiar with that? It's a very popular meme from the 90s. Mm-hmm. The idea was that the nefarious powers that be would use the latest tech to create holograms of Christ returning to Earth, right? And everyone would believe it.
Oh, yeah. It was supposed to be the big fake.
Yeah, the big
that would get people to follow fake Jesus.
Really the Antichrist doing it.
Turns out that the first big hologram was like Elvis or some Japanese pop star or something instead. So it took all the wind out of Jesus's sails.
Never quite the same. No, Project Bluebeam never happens. For better or for worse.
Well, I think that they do have hologram pop stars. They do have hologram shows projected.
Oh, in terms of enjoyment, the AIs have been chewing on that. What would be multi-species enjoyment? Grok thinks that dolphins and orcas are social and playful. They might enjoy it if it mimics cooperative or game-like dynamics. Cooperative or game-like dynamics. So if you're playing a game with the aliens, they might like that, at least if they're dolphin aliens. Octopuses, on the other hand, are much more solitary and would eschew games, collaborative games, as anything that would be entertaining to them, according to Grok.
Octopus are not so social as compared to dolphins.
Leave that to the cetaceans. But they like to figure out puzzles, interestingly enough, individually. My understanding is that each of their tentacles has brain cells in it. So their brain is not in one place like ours, but actually it's spread throughout their body, including all of their limbs. So when they're exploring something, their brain is literally there. And that there's a certain pleasure when you have a distributed brain like that, where you like to figure out things or pull things apart. Or they're really good at unscrewing like Chinese puzzles or opening up things, jars and
They like solving problems.
pods. Yeah, because their limbs their tentacles are smart, and they like to go places where it's interesting.
Yeah, well, when you got 8 arms, you can play a lot of games.
So, I think that maybe if you gave octopuses more of a puzzle, give them puzzles. And they say the other thing to be aware of is that any intelligent creatures in the sea are cautious. So if you at all seem threatening, like you're emitting intense noises or daunting physical presence, they might just stay away from you and watch for a while. Especially squids. Squids are skittish by nature and just might flee.
Squiddish.
So Grok thinks that dolphins and orcas are most likely to understand enjoyment as we understand it. And they might mimic the alien signals. So if they hear an alien dolphin, they would try to mimic it maybe.
Well, it seems to me that we once experienced a concert, a whale song concert that was collected by these fisherwomen from, where was that, Nova Scotia? Where were they from?
Newfoundland.
Oh, Newfoundland, right.
Yes, they were ladies that would hang out on the cliffs overlooking the icebergs, and as they watched the whales go by the icebergs, they would sing songs to them. Yeah, as we saw that.
Certainly, some of the whale scientists have recorded whales singing songs.
Yes.
And
there are interspecies contact along those lines that is really quite beautiful.
Right. I wonder if they've made any progress translating the lyrics yet. AIs listening to the whale songs, trying to tell us what they say.
Well, I think with all the AIs, we're right on the verge of some major breakthroughs with really understanding other intelligences and connecting with them, really. For a lot of us, it's not so much trying to figure out the other intelligences as much as it is just hanging out with them.
Yeah.
And if it seems in the flow, if it's appropriate. I mean, a lot of our scientists today think we shouldn't actually hang out with some of these species, that we're supposed to keep a distance from them. And there's a certain amount of value to that kind of thinking. A lot of it comes because, let's face it, a lot of humans cause harm to animals, and you got to protect our animals from those people. But for those folks that are genuinely interested in interspecies contact, I think it's a different set of rules.
Right.
And exactly what those rules are, something was worth talking about. But what about the creatures in your yard, like the squirrels, for example? What are the rules about communicating with them? Mark Roble.
Ask Mark Roble.
Yeah.
He seems to have a clue.
His backyard
Communicate with
squirrel,
nuts. What's their favorite nut? Okay.
Squirrel Olympics.
Make that a reward.
Yeah.
Here, I asked Grok about what progress has been made in understanding the lyrics of whale songs.
Yeah.
He says particularly those of the humpback whales don't contain words or semantic meanings like human language, but they are complex vocalizations composed of structure and patterns of sound. And recent research has made significant strides in understanding the structure, focusing on humpback whales, some mention of other whales like sperm whales. There's a 2025 study led by researchers from University of St. Andrews, published in Science.
This is understanding the lyrics of whale songs, yeah.
Yeah.
They do repeat them. They're like a litany of their history.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It says they're following a thing called Zipf's law, Z-I-P-F, Zipf's law, where the frequency of recurring sound sequences, analogous to word, follows a skewed distribution, and the pattern seen in human infant language acquisition suggests that humpback songs have statistically coherent parts that may facilitate learning through cultural transmission. So,
yeah, in other words, they're telling their stories.
Yeah, they're telling stories to their babies.
Yeah. And the conclusion over here was that it's hard to say exactly what would work in communicating with Icean aliens, but if they share aquatic traits like sonar and bioluminescence, then dolphins and octopi especially might find the encounter very stimulating, even enjoyable in their own unique ways. But if the aliens are too alien or non-physical, they don't look like them, they're not electromagnetically based, then nothing might happen. Oops, nothing, no connection. That's what I thought. You're looking for something that's similar to you. Like if we saw other humans, we'd be really interested in. And I think it's the same for the cetaceans and the octopi. They would probably be the same way as us, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you have it. And the idea of this world that we're contacting with just brings up these kind of ideas, especially since the biosignature is so strong for aquatic creatures. The only problem is it's 111 light years away, so it's not exactly in our backyard.
How about something closer to home? You got some of these other really cool articles, like what about the liver regeneration article?
Well, yes, we do have a medical article that, and also
a little closer to home.
Yeah, a little closer to home, and also the latest on Yellowstone.
Oh, Yellowstone. That's interesting, too.
Is it acting up again?
Well, this is good news, really.
People are studying it.
You know how in the oil world, they have these giant truck machines that do seismics. They create earthquakes, and then they measure earthquake bounces back and get detailed maps of the earth structure underneath because of the way the seismic waves bounce.
Sort of.
Right? You familiar with that?
It's like a form of mapping with radar.
So this technology was developed that they're using in this. These were used by scientists who they were kind of curious to look at the volcano to see what the structure of it was using a seismic truck for doing this that was used for the oil industry. They discovered something very interesting. First of all, it's kind of like a pressure cooker. The Yellowstone volcano is very, very big and very powerful. But what's interesting is that it appears to have some kind of lid on it, like a pressure cooker lid.
There's somebody buried a pot made of lava.
Well, that's just a rough
They're
analogy.
cooking lava some 3.5 miles under the earth or something.
Yeah, it's cooking and it's letting off enough steam to stop it from blowing up. So it seems to be in a good balance.
So, the Yellowstone Old Faithful is really just steam coming off
steam.
of an underground pot.
Do you remember those old pressure cooking pots? And they had that little knob that would it would go out of the spout of the steam.
Sure.
And it would just rock on the top.
Yeah.
And it would rock.
Yeah.
So I think what they're trying to describe is maybe the geyser at Yellowstone, once an hour, just kind of lets off some steam, and so the basin doesn't blow off.
That's right.
No, and it's got a nice lid that keeps it under control.
Oh, and when we were there, they published the schedule. Old Faithful now.
Pretty predictable.
Next eruption is in 50 minutes.
Well, they've seen how it changed over the years, of course.
Yeah. It used to be faster. It would repeat more often. It used to be 40 minutes, and now it's 50 minutes between eruptions.
Yeah. Before, they didn't know exactly where this magma system would lie. Before these studies, they thought it was somewhere 3 to 8 kilometers deep was the magma system. It was a lot of uncertainty. Now they did a high-resolution seismic survey that gives us a lot more detail of the caldera, exactly what it looks like. Fascinating story. The lid is 3.8 kilometers deep.
Oh, kilometers, not miles. Yeah.
Yeah, 3.8 kilometers. Yeah. Not that far, actually.
Yeah.
And they've got great wave equations and imaging techniques. The ability to turn seismic data, especially irregular seismic data, into something that makes sense and to create crisp, super clear images of what's down there is getting really good. Now,
that was the best part of this article, is that they're driving this little earthquake truck. They park this little earthquake truck on the side of the road somewhere in Yellowstone, and then they turn on the earthquake machine, and it puts out all these little seismic waves, and then those seismic waves go down into the surface, and then they bounce back, and then they get a seismic map of what's bouncing back.
And they were looking at the various types of rocks and the melt and what status they were in, how solid they were, how volatile combinations existed. The best match they found in the simulator was a mixture of what they call silicate melt and supercritical water bubbles with a porous rock matrix. And this resulted in a volatile-rich cap with 14% porosity.
Porosity.
Half of which is occupied by fluid bubbles.
Ooh.
Fluid bubbles, 14% porosity. It sounds like the fluid bubbles are going through the lid at 14%.
Yeah, it's the steam.
That's how it lets off steam.
Boiling off through the lid.
It doesn't need a particular just vent like we have on our pressure cookers, but the material of the lid itself allows a certain amount of pressure to be released. Pretty interesting.
Very interesting. How to look beneath the surface and see what's going on with the volcano there.
Yeah.
drfutureshow.com on the links page is where all these article links are posted if you want to go check them out.
Oh.
And we would be bereft not to mention the multizonal organoids, liver organoids, before we leave today.
Right. Yes, a little medical research going on.
Yes. Cincinnati Children's Medical Center. They have created a means by which they can grow little organoids of the liver made from human stem cells.
Just little teeny tiny livers.
Yeah, the idea is that we can start to create livers from your own stem cells. I mean, ultimately, you'll be able to replace them there.
We're not creating them for people.
No, they're still doing animal studies.
Rats.
But they were humanized organoids. They were transplanted into rodents, and they found that they actually worked in the rodents.
Now,
system.
How many rodents are on the liver transplant list? How come they're getting liver transplants first?
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Because this research, they're basically, they said they're disconnecting the rodent system and replacing it with this little human mutant liver system.
Yeah, it sounds cruel, but that's what we do. We disable their system so that they can test ours.
Thank you, rats.
Yeah. And we kill them all the time here. Right?
Yeah,
So
that's
it's a
true.
life
Well,
form that
we
might as
let
well
them
be
kill
useful.
themselves in our rat traps.
Yes.
We let the zappers do the work.
I think it's great that there's such great tools for understanding our own biology. I thank them for that.
Yeah.
That
Thank
they're
you.
useful for.
Thank you, ancestors,
Yeah.
siblings on the tree of life.
It does appear that the Cincinnati Children's Center for Stem Cell and Organoid Medicine, or CUSTOM for short, that they are able to grow liver organoids, and they've been doing it now for 13 years. The whole idea of having to be on a liver transplant list one day soon will be a thing of the past.
Just be able to grow your
Relegated
own.
to the dark ages of medicine.
You'll go give some blood and you'll say, hey, put some of that aside for my liver transplant, okay?
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast the liver can regenerate. These people that have liver transplants, all you need is 1/3 of a liver from a donor. And within a couple weeks, it will grow to almost the same size.
Well, that brings to mind, well, why not just use stem cells for enhancing the health of your liver? You know, speed up so you don't have to do a transplant. You know?
Yeah, well,
it would be.
If only your liver knew what was good for it. It probably wouldn't be sick in the first place.
Yeah.
Hey, you know
Well,
what?
you know,
It's
there's
time
all
to
that
go.
about Hep C, which is hepatitis C.
Yeah, Hep C. 22 seconds left, Bobby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for next week then.
Yeah, we'll continue our understanding of the stem cells. And
I didn't know the
liver
hour has gone so
transplants.
fast.
I know. Well, thanks for being part of the show today. It was really fun. Glad you're here. Thank you all for listening. And look
Have a
forward
great
to,
future now, everybody.
Yeah, enjoy your week.
Love you.
Enjoy creating reality. Talk to you soon.